What's up guys, in this video I'm going to be talking about why you need an ND filter for video. Mandatory, you will not graduate without it. So let's get started. Aperture, ISO, and shutter speed. Those are the three things that you manipulate in your camera to properly expose a shot and to get the shot exactly the way you want it. Aperture is the range from your camera. It can go from 2.8 to f22 depending on your lens. That's how much light goes in your lens. Your shutter speed always has to be double your frame rate. So if you're filming at 30 frames per second, your shutter speed has to be 1/60 to get the right amount of motion blur. And that is just to have a natural look of when you are moving and it just doesn't look jittery and choppy in the footage. Your ISO, it brightens up the image in your camera. It's built digitally in your camera or something like that, right? And too much of it can give you grain in your footage, and that's just a lot of dots in your footage, and it just does not look crisp and clear. Now, that's how you manipulate your footage. But if your shutter speed always has to be double your frame rate, so now you only got two things to work with, right? So your aperture, I want a blurry background of my dog. So this shot was properly exposed, all the settings were correct, and the shot still did not look good, right? So this is what happens when you mount that ND filter on. As you can see, just by putting that ND filter, this shot looks complete. This shot does not look too bright. The background is blurred. The shot just looks really good. And that's why you need an ND filter, because it helps you expose your shot properly and you're not minimized by just two things for video, because your shutter speed always has to be that way. So it's a good and bad thing. It's good because you don't got to worry about it, but it's bad because when you're trying to expose your shot properly and you don't have an ND filter, you're gonna get into some trouble. So that's why you need an ND filter. Now, to finish off, there's multiple types of ND filters. There's ND4s, ND16s. The higher the number, that means the darker the ND filter. An ND filter is essentially a sunglass for your camera. So now there's something called a variable ND filter and a variable ND filter. As you see right here in this shot, you can see through the ND filter, right? But as I'm twisting it, it gets darker, and that's what the variable stands for. You can increase the darkness, you can lower the intensity of the ND filter, and like that you don't have to be switching ND filters for different times of days. And not just that, if you buy a big ND filter, then you just buy step-up rings. A step-up ring is just something that goes in between your camera and the ND filter if they're not the same size. So like that, they're like 15 bucks, $14 for the step-up ring. And the ND filter, you just buy one time ND filter. Shout out to Mark, he's the one that told me this. You just buy one ND filter, a big one, and you can use that ND filter for all of your lenses. Mine is an 82mm filter thread variable ND filter from Tiffen. If this video helped you out, go ahead and give a like, share it, comment. Are you thinking about doing video? If you have any more questions, just shoot me a DM and I'll answer them. Thanks for watching. I'll make another one soon.